Well, hello, sports fans. This is Larry Eater with RunBlogRun in your favorite program, Athletics Chat number 45. See, I can use the fingers still. And there we have the charming Stuart Ware in Oxford, England, the intellectual, vexing, and now golf capital of the world because you got to
Yeah,
play golf today.
well, absolutely. For the last 3 months, we have not been allowed any outdoor sport,
Oh,
and golf, tennis, outdoor swimming has been allowed.
wow. Wow. I think you're the only country in Europe right now that's still loosening things up because everybody
Yeah,
else is freaking out, Stu.
well, also, but we have vaccinated 30 million people,
Okay,
which is more than half the adult population.
that's all. Now you've got your two shots, correct?
And now I've had one. I'm expecting the other one within 2 weeks.
Okay, I was scheduled for two, and then at the last minute they found a one, so I got my one on Wednesday. I do believe that there's a Bill Gates microchip growing in my neck, but besides that, everything
Yeah.
else seems pretty good. Um,
Mm.
I They did tell me that for it to work, I needed to stay put for 14 days. So I'm doing that, and then I'll
Mm.
head out to California about the 8th of April,
Mm.
and there's a there's going to be the first track meet, international track meet at Hayward Field is April 24th, and I may
Mhm.
try to see if I can somehow charm my way there, but we will have to see.
Mm.
We're checking in, and
Mm.
we have no clue what's going on. But
Mhm.
we had a wonderful event this weekend, the Mueller British Olympic Marathon Trials and 20K. And
Yeah.
since you're the man in that country, why don't you tell us what you thought about it?
I thought it was great and sad at the same time. It was such a shame that for the first time in 40 years, this event had to take place as a freestanding event. That there were about 17 male runners, about the same female runners, um, less than 10, I think, walkers in both. Normally, this would have been part of the London Marathon,
Mm-hmm.
and the marathon runners trying to get a time and qualify for the Olympics would have had the crowds to cheer them on, and they would have been running with thousands of others.
Yeah.
But these are strange times. We couldn't do that. No spectators were allowed. Uh, each um, each athlete apparently was allowed to have one person who was very creatively called their plus one.
Yes, that's what I had heard. Um,
But
without
the
getting,
fact that, go on.
no, what did
No,
um, what did you think of the course?
well, again, the fact that it was in such a pretty place because it was in the Royal Botanical Gardens at Kew, just on the outside of London. Um, So they were running a nice countryside. It was 12 laps. Um, I know that when the London Marathon this last fall was on a 12 lap course or something like that, some of the runners found that quite unusual. But I think Tom Bedford said in advance that he thought it was a very fast course, and the fact that the first three in the women's and the first one in the men's all round PRs, um, you know, clearly vindicates that.
Yeah, no, I think that we got to talk to Tom a little bit. And first of all, we have to congratulate him, his dad, David, and then
Mm,
Tom's lovely wife, Jade, who's his
mm,
partner over at the Richmond Run Fest. This was a no-win situation for them. Um,
yeah.
you know, they first they had to charm the for them to get the Richmond Run Fest each year is probably one of the greatest sales jobs in English history. And then they got a second day So there's some real sports fans at Q, and thank you, dear people at Q, because it was lovely to watch.
Yeah. But of course, because Kew Gardens was open to the public from 11,
wow.
then they had to do the race walking at 6 a.m. and the marathons at 8 a.m.
What did you think of the 20K race walk?
Well, I mean, it was interesting because in both the marathon and the race walk, the rules were basically you had to come in the first two and achieve the Olympic qualifying standard. So it wasn't just a matter of the first two are automatic. And in the women's walk, which we certainly think that the qualifying standard is pretty hard, and none of our walkers attained it. In the men's, again, no one attained it, but Tom Bosworth, our best race walker, already had it. He has had a horrendous winter with illness and injury, and he reckoned he was 70% fit, but he did enough to come second in the trials to guarantee his place. But you see, that's the only selection. We know the men's marathon, but we only know one of the women. So it's inconclusive in that sense.
I thought that, we both know Chris Thompson. I believe him to be, his real profession should be comedian. He is one of the funniest human beings I've ever met. And I spent about 30 minutes in a taxi with him going back and forth to the London Marathon. And I thought I needed oxygen afterwards. He just doesn't stop, and but what people don't understand is that the first team he made for the UK was in 1998 in the steeplechase as I think it was the under 20 Euro under 20 or European Junior, and so 22 years later, at the ripe old age of 39, in the same week, he became a daddy for the first time. He was, his son Theodore, and then his wife is a world-class 1,500 meter runner. I mean, it was, and when he moved, did it surprise you all of a sudden he's back on the screen? Because
I mean, it seemed as if he was out of it, but of course he had actually judged his race to perfection. And just the other thing to add about in his resume is that he ran the 10,000 in the 2012 Olympics.
Yes, and a European silver medalist behind Mo in 2010. So he's, and I got to watch him run his 27:23 in Palo Alto. And then I think I saw him run his 13:11, the 5,000. But, he's had injuries since, 2014. We would see, I'd see him at London each year. And gosh, it broke my heart because the guy was put it all in. So it was great to see.
He had no right to run a PR at 39.
No. It's like the spirit of Jack Foster, the New Zealand runner. So it's just kind of cool. What do you know about the young woman, Steph Davis, who won the women's race?
I know very little about her, I have to confess, but she was very impressive. She finished nearly three minutes ahead of second place. But we are in the situation that Steph has now secured her place for Tokyo. But Natasha Cockram, who was second, and Rosie Edwards third, neither of them has the qualifying time. But perversely, we have four other runners who have, like Steph 12,
right?
Charlotte Purdue, Lily Partridge, and Jess Piasecki. So I don't know whether it's realistic to expect Natasha Cockram to try another marathon before Tokyo and to get the time. I mean, she was only 30 seconds outside it, so she's certainly in the she's in the field. But equally, when you've got four others who weren't running because they are injured, assuming that that a couple of them are fully fit by the summer, I'm assuming the selectors will choose them.
Now, I've heard that Steph Twell may try for the 10 as well.
She may well do. I mean, she's only recently been sort of doing marathons because she was again. I mean, she was someone who had a horrendous injury many years back.
Yeah, I remember her in that cross country race, right?
Yeah.
That was scary. That was up there with Llewellyn Starks in the long jump, which I can close my eyes and still see. What about I interviewed Steph at Frankfurt in 19, and she would run like a marathon. She was just really progressing nicely, and so it was kind of interesting to see. Charlotte Purdue, what's up with Charlotte?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Just go back to the men for a moment.
Yeah.
Then there was the third place was Mo Adan, who ran 2:12:20 in his first ever marathon.
Pretty darn impressive.
Yeah, and I mean, really, I'm just trying to find it. I mean, that is just 36 seconds outside the Olympic standard. But of course, the men's was complicated because the selectors had already pre-selected Callum Hawkins.
Yeah.
And of course, what do you do, Larry, if you're pre-selected for the Olympics and you don't have to run in the trials? What would a normal person do?
Sleep that morning.
How about turning up and volunteering to pace make?
And he did a amazing job. I was impressed with him and the young man, Jake Smith. I mean, Jake ran through 25K, and he looked quite good. And then and then Colin ran till 32K. I thought Dewey Griffiths was running to win, and then when we saw Chris, Dewey had gone out the back door, and Chris was just on it, and he didn't let up. What did you think about the drones? I mean, I thought the shots of the race were magnificent,
Indeed.
And it was absolutely beautiful. And again, hats off to the team who did that. And what people don't understand, it all looked so easy and so organized. The Bedfords, Tom, Jade, and David, were busting their chops with their team to make sure this worked, because the addition of COVID into this event made it insane. And you saw the little, what we call them over here is ATV carts, or gator carts, that were in front of it. There was one in front of the men, one in front of the women. And it's the only reason why we didn't know where Chris was, because Thompson was 10 seconds back, 10 to 20 seconds back. He knew how far he could let himself go and just kind of keep his composure. And at the end of the day, that race is about, a championship race is about one thing, being in the top three, and for you guys getting a qualifying time. In the lead up to the race, the funniest tweet I saw was from Mr. Tom Bedford. He had found a badger running across the course, and he said that they had spent their marketing budget on it, and it's probably, they had very little budget on anything. British Athletics and Mueller, thank God, came in, and really hats off to Mueller. You guys have got a great sponsor over there. I mean, I like their yogurt, and when we go to the British meets, they're always giving it out. So I know I get my my acidophilus stuff, And then
Yes.
for them to come in, they had to do it for the love of the sport, and because the streaming video. So we did streaming video we promoted streaming video for the NC cross country, the NC indoor track, all the U.S. indoor meets, and all the world indoor meets. The biggest drawer the entire season has been the British Olympic marathon trials. It drew even bigger than London. And I think it was because, one, there was a lot of drama in it, that people, and we've got to talk about Tim Hutchings and Mara Yamauchi. Oh, my God.
Yes.
How do you pronounce Mara's last name, Stuart? Is it Yamauchi? Yamauchi? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know I destroyed, and Mara, I apologize. She is so learned and so student of the sport and so friggin' geek, and it really goes well with Hutchings' kind of emotional stuff, and they were a nice team for the TV, I thought.
Do you know where Mara comes from?
I believe she's lived in Japan for a while, right?
Yeah, but she's from Oxford.
Oh, dear gosh. So, of course, she's from the intellectual capital. So what would you expect, Stuart?
Mara's story is that she studied Japanese at university and went to Japan as Mara Myers. She met her future husband there, and she worked at the British Embassy. And on one particular occasion, she was Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher's interpreter.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and she of course came sixth in the Beijing Olympic Marathon 2008, and also her best performance was second in the London Marathon.
Wow. Yeah, she's had a prominent career. I mean, I think that over the last few months, we've got to see, let's see, 3 of your top women athletes announce meets. Mara, Hannah England, correct? Yes. And then I'm trying to think who else new that we just saw. The 800-meter runner, Jenny, who's done stuff for a while.
Jenny Miller, yeah. Mara was doing some stuff in the World Championships in Doha because she was in the same flight out as me.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, no, she...
I think she may have been doing the marathons in the middle of the night.
Yes, that was pretty special. I tried to... I think I fell asleep a few times during that coverage, It was kind of... That was just an insane schedule in Doha. Any other deep thoughts on the British trials?
Well, race walking is something that I really try very hard to appreciate. But Gemma Bridge, who was leading the women's and who looked as if she might get very close to the Olympic qualifying, then got DQ'd. And certainly, to my non-expert, I cannot see what she was doing that the others weren't doing. But it's. I mean, because I think to the uninitiated, they all look to be running really.
Yeah, no, that's part of my beef too, and I don't think. And I thought that Tim and Mara did a nice job in attempting to explain it, but there was still some frustration there.
I mean, something that Tom Bosworth once explained to me was helpful. He said that most people have a good technique, but when they try to speed up, that's when the technique goes a bit. And that is when potentially you're likely to start cutting corners, so to speak, in the technique.
Yeah.
I mean, I've written about this. We've talked about it before. I mean, something like 10% of race walkers are DQ'd in most meets. Yeah. And I mean, imagine if in every Olympic 100-meter final, somebody was always, one or two were always DQ'd. Imagine if in every 800, 1,500, one or two athletes every time were DQ'd for obstruction, pushing, whatever. There would be an absolute outcry. But race walking just shrugged its shoulders and said, well, that's just an occupational hazard. I mean, I spoke to Gemma Bridge afterwards, and she just said, very annoying, got to learn from it.
No, it's frustrating because I think, unfortunately, it hurts an event, the events that are historical. I'm still disappointed that they're going to make the 50K shorter, and because I always thought the history of the event, and that what people still don't understand is that a 50K race walker is in the shape of a cross-country skier, and their VO2 max is higher than a lot of distance runners, and because it's a full body movement, and that so many people get DQ'd. It's like, think about how many times people get frustrated when we have 10 heats of the 100 at a world champ or something, the early heats, and how many people are DQ'd in those. I mean, you maybe sometimes get 5 or 6 heats where people are DQ'd, and you're going, oh my gosh, how do you deal with those kind of things? And I think that I want to modernize the event, but I also want to respect its integrity. And I know that you need to have officials, but very early on, I was wondering if Caleb Wilkinson was going to make it till the end, because he had a couple flags, or a couple cards, and I just didn't know what was going to happen. So it was most interesting. I thought the event was well done. I mean, I stayed up and I watched it from 2 a.m. till over here it was about 7 a.m., and they did a great job. Tim and Mara talked nonstop for 5 hours, and I know Tim can do that, but I know Mara had to get tired. All right, what's our next topic, big guy? What do you want to talk about? I've got an idea. Is there anything that's been bothering you? Let's just talk about something. I got I had a column that I published anonymously, and it was about some coaching things in the UK, and I'd like just to comment on it real quick. I remember John Chaplin when he was a U.S. Olympic coach. I asked him what he liked about being an Olympic coach, and he said it's kind of weird. He said the only thing you get remembered for is if they dropped the baton in the 4x4 or the 4x1. And I kind of chuckled about that. I have watched coaches in the U.S., in the U.K. I remember observing Van Comeny for most of a summer, trying to figure out why British athletics hired him. And I saw a few times. I mean, I liked his interaction with some of the athletes. I thought sometimes he was rather brusque, but no one's going to be perfect. And as I did in the introduction to the piece, I just said, look, if you're an Olympic coach, you're a world championship coach, you're going to be criticized. People are going to second guess you. And but the job of a coach is to put people around them that they know they can do the job. And sometimes that requires them to go out of, what do you call it, protocol. And I recall back in 2012, the uproar when Raina Ryder and Terence Mahone were brought into the UK. Both fine coaches, two of the finest coaches that I know. But I remember sitting in bars a couple times and the absolute vitriol and frustration. And part of what it was from some of the British coaches was at the time, why aren't they picking British coaches? Well, Van Comeny knew that he was going to be judged on one thing, how many medals he put on that stand. And The thing I like about Van Comedy is that he's pretty damn transparent. This guy actually resigned because he didn't get enough medals. He didn't wait for British Athletics to tell him to go bye-bye. He left, and he's a pragmatist, and he knows what his job is, and he gets the job done. I think that the UK has been doing an amazing job with your relays. I think you've done an amazing job with your multi-events. I think that if there's really good women like you've had in the HEP, there's got to be some high-quality men, and I'm curious to see if you guys can find them, because you've had some in the past. You know, I mean, Daley Thompson did not just fall up a turnip wagon. You know, and you now have this tremendous cadre of middle and long distance runners. And think about it, when we were dealing with this stuff in 2008, you know, what was most? 6th in the 5,000 or 9th in the 5,000? And it just wasn't, we're kind of going, okay. But you guys have built it up, and it's, in the US, we get spoiled. If we close our eyes, in a bad year, we get 20 medals. In a good year, we get 30 medals. In a great year, we get 33 medals. In an amazing year, we get 36. You know, when Villanana started saying, yeah, we're going to have 30 medals each time, well, it's always possible, but you got to put your best foot forward. But the problem is with USATF, some of the coaches that they should use, they haven't, and they're now being used in Europe and Asia. I mean, the Chinese have used several of our top coaches, you know, and, you know, coaches like Raina. I mean, Raina Ryder and Lance Brauman are two of the best sprint coaches in the world. And they've got Brits, they've got Germans, they've got, you know, athletes in the Netherlands. So it's a challenge, you know, and I think that Coach Malcolm is going to he has people who really admire him. And he has people who, it's not that they don't admire him, it's they also know they need to hold him accountable. And I think that's what we're trying to do. I respect the work that different coaches do, but I also think at different times we've got to show both sides of the story. And that's the challenge, right?
Generally speaking, I try to keep out of the politics of the sport, but just what is being said at the moment is that the two assistant coaches that Christian Malcolm has appointed, neither of them had an active coaching license at the point that they were. So, you know, some people are saying, well, what does that say to all the current coaches, you know, who are up to date with their qualifications and so on? What does that say to them if you bring in somebody who doesn't? And also, you know, Joe Coates has talked a bit about cleaning up the stables, no more jobs for the boys. And Hey Presto, we've had 2 appointments of people who used to work with her, and now we've got 2 assistant coaches who used to be training partners of Christian Malcolm. You know, that's the kind of stuff that I read in the newspapers.
Yeah, no, it's in the British newspapers are much tougher than the U.S. ones. You know, most of the time the U.S. newspapers don't know what the heck a relay baton is. You know, you get I mean, James Dunaway, the longtime editor of American Track and Field, who passed away in 2014. I remember about 2004, he sat me down and explained Olympic riders, that newspapers would pick someone to cover the Olympics, and they had to cover a multitude of sports. So they had to dabble in everything. But the easiest thing for them to write about from 2004 on in the U.S. was drug positives. And they didn't have to know anything about it. And some did it well. Some did it because it was really important. and then some learned about the sport. And it's I like it when people learn about the sport. I think that that's a really important. This is a subject that, and this is just coming into my head. Are there many women writers in athletics in the UK?
Are there many writers about athletics in the UK? Would be
that are women. That are women.
Question. Well, I mean, just generally, because I mean, when I first went to the Rome Diamond League, there were 5 British writers there.
Okay.
There was Simon Hart from the Telegraph. There was Rick Broadbent from the Times. There was Laura Williamson from the Mail. There was somebody from the Independent, and there was me. Now, the last 4 years I've been to Rome, it's just been me.
Okay.
So most newspapers now do not have a dedicated full-time athletics writer. In terms of those who were in Doha, for example, you would have Janet Kochi with BBC, but then she's not a writer. There was Rebecca Myers from the Sunday Times. I cannot think of I cannot think of any other women, British writers who were in Doha, for example. There was Jess Whittington, the web editor of Athletics Weekly, but she has now gone to World Athletics.
Wow.
So there, at the moment, I can only think of 3 during the time that I've worked. Another would have been Martha Kellner, but she has now gone into television, Sky News, sports presenter with Sky News. So, I mean, the 2 factors in answer to your question is that there are not many full-time athletics-only writers at all, and very few of them are women.
Okay. How do you think the spring season in the UK is going to go? Are we going to see outdoor meetings? What's your take right now?
We have a date for the British Championship, which will be in June in Manchester, because Birmingham is still being rebuilt for the Commonwealth. Whether there will be spectators remains to be seen. We are hopeful. Premier League Soccer, which tends to lead the way here, is being allowed spectators from the middle of May, probably 10,000 at an event. And if you're thinking those are stadiums which would hold 40 to 70,000, 10,000 to start with is less than a quarter. So the stadium in Manchester, where the British Championship will be, is quite small. So, there might be a small crowd there.
Okay.
But other than that, the only major meet is the Diamond League, which is in July, but on a Tuesday evening, not a weekend.
Are they selling tickets for it yet?
I don't think they are, because they would not yet have the go-ahead that spectators will be allowed.
Okay.
But there is an expectation that they may well be. But again, probably. I mean, I think that given that they probably will not sell out, they might get as many spectators as they normally do.
The Doha meeting is mid-May this year, correct?
Yeah, it's end of May. Doha is the 28th of May.
How does the Diamond League start?
Well, it's the first one is Rabat on the 23rd of May, then Doha the 28th of May. Then in June we've just got 2, Rome and Oslo.
What are the dates on those?
The 4th of June in Oslo, 4th of June in Rome, the 10th of June in Oslo. And if you're feeling very independent, Larry,
Yeah.
the 4th of July, you could be in Stockholm.
Oh, yeah.
Followed by Monaco and London on the 9th and 13th.
That's that's what I used to love to do when I had sponsors. So it's going to have to be. You said it's Oslo, then Stockholm, and then you said London,
Monaco, and then London.
Wow, they moved Monaco early this year.
Well, then you see from the 13th of July, there's nothing for a month because there's some little thing happening in Tokyo.
Yeah, where are you at about that right now?
Well, there's been another announcement this week that any dignitaries who are entitled to go, for example, any IAAF, World Athletics rather, chief guests and who might normally be allowed to bring someone with them, they have got to come alone this year. So there'll be no wives, no guests beyond those who are entitled, simply to reduce the numbers of people who will be there.
Okay.
I have got to pay the second part of my accommodation at the beginning of May, and that will be the time when I have to make a decision. And I'm just watching things at the moment. I think I'm 50-50 whether I will go, probably. I mean, technically, I am not allowed to leave the UK before the 17th of May unless it's essential. And going to a track and field meet probably will not convince our government that it is essential for me to be there. So
will the possibility of seeing you in Doha, my friend?
No, I think not.
Okay.
Well, it's simply because it's quite a long way to go for the first trip, is my thinking. And how safe a long flight is, how safe an airport is, whether the vaccination protects you against all strands of COVID in far-flung places. Those are the questions that I'm thinking through. Okay, good. Well, we're down to our final couple minutes. Any deep thought you'd like to end with in week 45? Well, if I have a deep thought, it'd take me more than 2 minutes to express it. Not really. I mean, in my more depressed moments, I wonder if I will travel at all this year. Yeah. In my more positive moments, I'm looking forward to getting places like Rome and Oslo. But nobody really predicted that COVID was going to strike back so much worse in France and Germany and countries like that. I'm wondering whether the World Relays can take place in Poland, because that's only 5 weeks away, and they're currently in a serious lockdown. That's what we're, right now we've got 2 series, the USATF Road to Tokyo, it's 10 meets, and then the boutique meets that Jesse Williams has put on for Sound Running and the folks at Miles of Trials. What I'm disappointed with is it doesn't sound like USATF has been able to find a way to include Sound Running's events or Miles of Trials. Both did wonderful events, and I'm just curious why they're not all working, playing well with each other. But we'll probably leave that for next week, my dear friend. And I'm glad you got to play golf. I hope you get to play golf again this next week, and I'll check on, see how your game's going. But this is Athletics Chat 35. Stuart Weir is in Oxford, England, the intellectual, vexing, and golf capital of the world. And this is Larry Eder. I'm in the cheese capital in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin. Hope you enjoyed our broadcast today. If you like Run Blog Run, please like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then if you love us, subscribe on the YouTube, and then you can see everything Stuart and I are doing.
Have a lovely evening. Thanks, dude. Bye.
Thank you.
Hey, sports fans, Larry Eater, RunBlogRun. This is Athletics Chat 45. I did call 35 at the end of the program, so I apologize. That happens sometimes in the afternoons when I kind of slow down a little bit. I need my 15th cup of coffee. Anywho's, you know the drill. Stuart Weir, our European correspondent, lives in Oxford, England, which is the intellectual capital of the world, vaccine capital, and also golfing capital, because he got to golf today thanks to the Prime Minister. They hadn't been able to golf for 4 months. Anywho's, yeah, you know who I am, Larry Eater. I'm in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, the cheese capital of the world. And can there be a life without cheese and wine? Come on, really, seriously? Let's not even get into that subject. We will have a whole rant on that another time. Wine's got to be red, and it's got to be a cheese that upsets TSA agents, and I have done that, just so you know. I had a TSA agent one time in Chicago refused to go through my bag because I had brought back Camembert and a couple other stinky cheeses from France, and she was mortified. Okay, I've digressed. So, Mike, we're going to try to do this in 5 minutes. Here we go. This is what we talked about this week. The Mueller British Olympic Marathon Trials. 17 men. I think it's 11 women. It was the Kew Garden, which is a botanical garden outside of London. And this was an amazing event. And you need to know some of the background. The event was put on by a team headed by Tom Bedford, his wife Jade, and his father David. Tom and Jade have put on the Richmond Run Fest for, I believe, 5 years now. It's held in the Botanical Garden. They have a marathon, a 10K, I think a half marathon, and they've had some pretty colorful, cool athletes running it, and it's a gorgeous place to run. So what did they do? They decided, hey, let's do a 1.6K start and 12 3.333K loops, and that's how they did the Mueller British Marathon Olympic Trials. They also did a 20K on a little over a 1.1 mile loop. The 20K went off very well. Hats off to Tim Hutchings and Mara Yamuchi for announcing for, I believe, almost 6 straight hours. First, the race walk, and I learned a lot from them. They did a great job. Callum Wilkinson won the men's. Tom Bosworth was in there, the British record holder, but he's had COVID and been sick a bit. So his championship was taking second. He was about 4 minutes back. It was 1:22:47 for Callum. The top women walked well, but they did not make the Olympic standard. In the marathon, you had the men and the women's, which is kind of the way they do it. The men's was won by Chris Thompson, and it was one of the more bizarre and entertaining performances that I've seen in a long time. Chris Thompson has competed for the UK since 1998 when he was a European junior steeplechaser. He has competed on, this will be his second Olympic team. He's a silver medalist in the 10,000, the Europeans in 2010. He's competed in Commonwealth Games. He competed in 2012. He's also had an amazing set of injuries over the years. And he's had some very thoughtful coaches. He's being coached now by Alan Story, the renowned British distance coach. A good man and a good sense of humor. And what Chris did is he showed his maturity at 39. They went through the 10K in about 30:51, and then we didn't see him in the picture anymore. We didn't know he was about 20 seconds back because he had calculated, hey, I'm going way too fast. And we didn't see him again until 30K. As he charged up, Dewey Griffith went to the back. And that was all she wrote. Chris was very, very into it, and he put 44 seconds on in the last 5K. It was a brilliant race. He ran 2:10:52 PB. He also spray painted a competitor's shoes, which his brand supported. We'll deal with the shoe stuff another time. But it was an emotional win for him. Tim Hutchings was pretty torn up about it too. The broadcast was fantastic, and it shows you what streaming can really do. It also shows you that the most important thing is to believe in yourself. On the women's side, Steph Davis, who had run a 2:27:40 before, won in 2:27:16 at PB. Interesting that both the male and female winners scored PBs on this course, which David Bedford said was a very fast course. And all in all, I thought the broadcast was fantastic. I thought that the trials were fantastic. I'm glad to see Mueller and British Athletics supporting it. I'd have loved to have seen some money going to the athletes, and that was sad. But you know what? Hopefully Tom and Jade and David can put on the next one, and we'll see some money in those athletes' hands. The truth is, for the last 40 years, Olympic trials have been at the London Marathon, and there's obviously prize money there. So those athletes picked up some good bucks, but they didn't this time because London was in October. But what did the Mueller British Olympic Marathon show more than anything? That even in a pandemic, you can put on some pretty incredible events. And Tom Bedford, Jade Bedford, and David Bedford and their team and the sponsors, Mueller, British Athletics, and Nike, all deserve great rounds of applause, as well as does the Botanical Gardens at Kew. It was just beautiful. And I didn't like the Barry the Badger running around the course. Living in Wisconsin, the Badger is the collegiate symbol here. So hats off to Tom, Jade, and David. Congratulations to Steph Davis and Chris Thompson. Hope to interview them soon. And it's been a good week. Athletics Chat 45. We've survived it. See, I did it right this time. If you like the Athletics Chat, subscribe on YouTube. We've got 2,500 plus videos and audios. We've got 369 videos and audios in the last year. Our charming producer, Mike Deering, is the person behind all those. And if you like us, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. This is Larry Eder. Stay safe. Get your walk in or your run in today. Hydrate yourself. And we'll talk with you soon.